Sleepy Hollow Season 2, Episode 11, The Akeda. A great mid-season finale. I kind of love Sleepy Hollow for this. Like, the season finale for, last season was really well done. It was, like, super amped up, and it's like, the characters are split apart. Everything's, like, falling apart in that finale. And they kind of did the same thing in this one. Instead, it's kind of really happy and upbeat, but it's still a crazy ending. It's like, we still don't really know what happens. Of course, we sadly lost one of our characters. We lost Irving in this episode, and that was like the hardest thing to see because they had like the greatest return to form for this character, and I loved it. It's like there's no way to better ramp up a character's story arc than to have him kind of suffer the entire season, and then he comes back as like, hey, this one thing that's basically crippled me, like, aside from just being locked up, having my soul gone was destroying me. It's like, I don't want to become a monster. I don't want to work for Moloch and kill my friends and family off. And then in the end of this season, or at least in the middle of the season, it's like he comes back, and that one thing, that the really big thing that tortured him, becomes his greatest weapon, and the greatest weapon for everyone in the series, because he comes back and he was just super badass in this episode. I loved it. And like, he goes and meets Abraham, and that was a great scene where he was like, Abraham was like, you can't do that because do you really want to give up what you have left? And he's like, oh, like, you guys aren't on talking terms, but he already has my soul, so I can just, I can fling this thing around and do what I want. And I loved Abraham's face. It's just like, oh, he looked at Katrina and was like, well, I didn't know that. So, it was just good. He had all this power, and then of course he fights war and defeats war. That was incredibly cool. Like, he killed like 2 soldiers before that, and he like trips the one guy and like stabs him, and it's like, Highlander type stuff, like it can be only one, and he's just really amazing. And then he dies, and it was really messed up, and I was like, oh, he can't die. Like, even though he got cut, I thought there was nothing to it, like, oh, he got sideswiped, he's fine. And that's what I was really hoping for, like they wouldn't do that, and it just really sucked. It was like they built it up to this great big moment for his character, and then he sadly gets killed off right after that. And based on this show, I don't think he'll come back, but there are like a million things that could go on with the fact that his soul was taken before he was killed. So I would love it if they somehow found a way to bring him back to life, or like, take his soul, and if they could put it in his body, it somehow brings him back to life since his soul was technically gone, or something like that. I would love for them to write that into the show, and he comes back by the end of this season. But it really sucked to see him go. He's the first person we've actually lost as far as the good guys go, except for like the very first sheriff, who really died in the first episode, so it hardly counts because that was kind of the catalyst for things kind of jumping off. But we actually lost one of the team members, and it really sucked. And I loved Irving. I liked his story. I thought it was really interesting because he had so much crap just thrown his way. It kind of made his story more interesting to me. And even though he didn't really have like giant parts because he was really just locked in an insane asylum, it was still interesting to see how are they going to get around this, because no one's ever been trapped like that, where not only was he literally physically trapped in this one location, but as far as the mystical element of the show goes, he was stuck. He had no soul. He didn't really have any way out of it. He was tricked, and that was all there was to it. So, that great build up for his character was amazing. And then they sadly kill him off, and it led to a really inspiring moment for the rest of the characters, where they lost someone that they cared about, and they kind of put them into this point, like, we just have to sacrifice ourselves if that's what it takes, because we can't lose anyone else. And it was a really great moment. And the way this episode ended, I thought was insane. Like, I have no idea how things are gonna work. I have to assume Moloch is still gonna be the enemy. I don't think Moloch died. I think his physical form was destroyed, but he will, basically just go back to purgatory, and he'll kind of have to find his own way. And then he might incorporate the Elder Horsemen that we haven't really gotten to see since like season 1, and I think we only got to see Pestilence then. So, he might kind of incorporate them, since he kind of can't use war anymore. And in one way it's really cool, but in another way it's like, it really sucks, because them having defeated war in this episode means that Henry probably won't be able to, bring that suit of armor up out of nowhere and kind of use it against Moloch's enemies. It's, they're kind of back down to the human force again, so that kind of sucks. But it was a great mid-season finale. I'm really excited for it. They always, it's always really great. Like you amp up things in the season, and the mid-season finale is the apocalypse. What the heck are they gonna do for the rest of the season? That's a really big question. But I think it was a great mid-season finale. It's sad to see one of our characters go. Like I said, I would love it if they work some magic and he was just like, boom, he's back. But it was a great mid-season finale. Love the action in it. Love the story elements to it. Stuff with Ichabod and Katrina was really interesting, and her kind of having these feelings for Abraham, and maybe not the same feelings she has for Ichabod, of course, but she still cares about the guy, and he's kind of trapped too, and it was sort of his choice, but at the same time, like, not everything is. So that dynamic was really good, and of course Ichabod still cares about her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said to wouldn't have told Henry to kill him first instead of Katrina. But it was just really well done, and of course Henry switching at the last minute I thought was really great. It was expected when it was right there when he was giving that speech, like, someone who would sacrifice his son. And I love that they had the moment where it's like, throughout the season, it's like Henry, after he revealed himself, the whole thing with him and Ichabod was that Ichabod kind of sacrificed Henry. At least that's how Henry felt it. And in this episode, he actually calls Moloch father and all this stuff, and it was just, it's like he's officially here, he's risen and everything. And another thing with Moloch was that he was speaking like straight English in this, and I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was cool. Like him having a physical form allowed him to simply speak English. It wasn't his natural tongue, and that was something they kind of didn't touch on because it was just there. But I thought that was actually pretty cool. He was actually, I guess, like in like jet black makeup instead of the typical light makeup. So like his manifested form is completely different than his like purgatory form. So that was really cool, and I think that's just one of the things. Like he, in this form that he was in, wasn't nearly as powerful as his complete form, where he's like speaking his native language and he's like in the all white makeup, which is why he looks so different. But the speech Henry gave at the end was really cool, and him realizing that his parents do care. Like after like all the crap, it was like Ichabod and Katrina was like, just if you stay here and just let us go fight Moloch, that's all that we need to do. We just want to kill Moloch. We don't want to hurt you or anything like that because you're our son. And he finally realized it in the end when Moloch was just like, Abraham's nothing, you're nothing, so do what I tell you. And it was just really good. And it's just like when he stabbed him and then it went off, I was like, what the heck? Like I thought, I was like, all right, now the commercial break is going to be really cool. And then it went off, but it was a great mid-season finale. I definitely loved it. I think, I don't know if there's ever been a mid-season finale where it's like such a huge question comes, because it's like you bring up the apocalypse in the middle of the season and you stop the apocalypse theoretically. I have to assume with Moloch gone it's over, but you bring it up and you stop it in the in the middle of the season. There are like a million questions. Who's going to be the new enemy? Or, if it is still Moloch, who is he going to use? Like, is he going to use the other horsemen? Is he going to use other people? Is he somehow going to have full control over Irving, maybe? Because Irving is officially dead, so his soul is, completely in Moloch's control. Tons of questions, but I loved it. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought, so comment below, let me know. Your favorite parts, least favorite parts, and of course, what do you guys think is going to happen when things start up again next year? Because there are a ton of questions. Where's this show gonna go? So of course, comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.